Hello, my dear friends, and welcome back to the channel. If it is your first time watching my video here, my name is Gigo, and today we are back at the Ibri project where we're putting up, a nice four-bedroom house here in the Ibri Mountains. In my previous episode, we looked at the septic tank where and also the fence wall. We made a draft, fenced wall. We also did the road clearing, grading of the road. But then we ended up with the septic tank where we encountered this, heavy rock underneath that we couldn't go more to the measurement that we were looking for. But this was good, but we just have to add another additional sockaway, which you'll be seeing later in this video. So the estimate that I put out there, you know there was a little bit adjustment to it, and there's also more work which the owner later added to the whole thing. So he let the guys fill up the compound a little bit with the sand that they were able to duck from the ground. So, this is, some of the things that I do share on my channel. I let you know the real fact. Estimate is very good to know, to have your estimates, but don't depend on your estimate. It's just a guideline. So sometimes if it costs someone maybe like $100 to do a certain project, doesn't mean that your project will also cost you $100 if it is the same bedroom. Sometimes there are additional things that comes with it or challenges that you face on the land. For example, this rock was a bit of a challenge, so then we have to do additional thing, which was the sockaway that we have to add it up to this septic tank. So you'll be seeing that in the upcoming, in few minutes time that I'll be showing you that, and also we'll look at the break the cost breakdown again, because like I said, there was additional cost into the whole thing, so we will look at it. So in my previous estimates, we didn't include the digging fee, which was 3,500 Ghana cedis, because the guys were still in the process of digging. So that was the total cost of the digging that came, but that also include the sockaway, which you'll be seeing later in today's episode. So fast forward, block work begins, and the guys are in motion doing their best to lay the blocks, as soon as possible. And the reason why we are doing this before, trying to finish the structure work is the dry season. So this is a nice weather to do this kind of job. It's impossible to do this in the rainy season, which, very soon it will start raining in Ghana, and you never know how, the season will go. So, like, to do this kind of work, it will take you maybe, let's say, a week or two, depending on how hard your guys work. And you can imagine just digging and you going home the next day, you come, it is full of water. You cannot get it out there that same day. You have to organize for a pump, and yeah, never know how it will go. You come the next day, there's rain, you take the water out, you come the next day, there's rain again in there. So that's kind of annoying, and that also goes in your cost estimate, because then you spend money buying fuel and renting of a generator. So we decided to do this now whilst it is dry season, and then when it starts raining, the guys can be doing plastering at the ground floor of the building, and they can also be still doing the block work, which will be on the second level, because if you lay 4 course a day, you can do that, during the rain. If it's not heavy rain, you can still do something. The owner is trying to do that to keep guys on site, each and every time, at least 2 weeks. If there's no work, it's okay. And this prevents, burglars from coming around, or these weed smokers. They like this uncompleted building. When they see that, there's no construction going there, that's where they like to hide and do their own things in there. So that's a strategy, we're using to get these things done. And this just like, by the way, one thing I noticed is that most of us building, back home, living in the West, in the diaspora, one thing we don't really consider is like a roadmap, during our journey of building. And this is something you have to do with your architect or your foreman or your builder. You have to have a roadmap with him or her, to know at every stage what is expected of you and also what is expected of the contractor or your foreman. If you have this point, on paper, maybe every 3 weeks, or sorry, every 3 months, we have to go back to the roadmap and see where we are, what we have achieved, and what is ahead of us. And this way, it gives you an idea of how fast you are moving or even how slow you are moving. And this will also, bring out a lot of things, for you to see an overview of of the whole project, rather than, just sending the money and just getting videos of, every month what is happening. If you have a roadmap, and maybe in the roadmap every 3 months we have to look at what has been done and what we have to do, and then you can do some adjustment. Like for example, what this owner is doing is that on the roadmap, the first thing was to put a structure on the land. And then after, he has the structure, which is the ground floor, just the ground floor, he sees the remaining space. He wants to know how many space do I have on the compound, because this is like a half plot that he is building on. So he decided to start with the fence wall, the front and the gate, not the full fence wall. He just made something, just a draft wall, just to get an idea, the shape of the remaining space of the house. So you could see now, after doing the septic tank, he knows what space he has around him now. Here you could see. So he knows, okay, this is the space I have now. So maybe if I want to do an adjustment with my building, maybe let me add another, extension. Let me add another feature. Maybe I can put a swimming pool there, or I can have a mini, garden. Before you continue with the house. You don't put up the house and then later you're going to look for where you're going to put your septic tank or where you're going to put your fence wall or whatever. So the roadmap is very, very important. And the best thing is that it lets you know if you are spending more or less at every stage, because before you begin with a project and you already have a roadmap, every stage comes with a cost estimate, step by step process. So if you get to a place where like you are like, hey, I was supposed to spend this amount of money at this point, but I have spent more. Can you explain to me where, so it also is like a reference for you to be able to, have a communication with with your builder, rather than maybe pointing fingers or like, hey, I'm spending this, the roadmap guides both of you. And now, after the septic tank is done, the next thing is, where are we going to put our poly tank? As I said, it's a half plot, so you have to strategically put it in a place where it's not going to affect, the second floor, the windows. Sometimes I see people building a house, they are in their bedroom, and the only view they have is their poly tank. And even sometimes they put the motor close to the windows, and that makes so much noise. So it's very important that immediately you put your structure, the ground floor, or even you can just put up the whole structure before you start with the finishes and the plastering. You do all of those checks, you make sure that you start planning for the landscape. You don't have to finish, the landscaping, but just demarcate where you want everything to be. Especially if you have to dig, you have to do it so that you know what is on the ground. Sometimes there will be things there, like especially the stone, and that will prevent you from positioning the septic tank there. That means you have to choose a different place, and if that is not favorable to you, meaning you have to block, something in the house. So with this, the owner already knows that, okay, this is what happened. This was my challenge. I couldn't go deeper. So let me add a sockaway, which is what these guys are doing now. So they are adding a sockaway with it, and you could see how close is it to the building. So with this, he knows if he has to block a window, close a door, whatever adjustment he has to do with his structure, he can do it now. Not like do your finishes, paint, do your andri and everything, and then later you go to do your landscaping, and then you're going to find out the challenges on the land, and that means you have to come back to break things that you spend money on. So I hope this makes sense to someone, or it gives an idea, the building construction, because you never know what is ahead. You never know what is in the ground. You never know. So this brings us to the end of today's episode. I really appreciate your time spent here on the channel. Please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in my next episode. Look to